Reaching 200,000 miles is a major milestone for any vehicle. While some cars cruise past this mark with ease, others suffer catastrophic failure much earlier. We've been told it's all about the brand or how often you change the oil, and those things do matter, but they don't tell the whole story. What really separates long-lasting engines from short-lived ones comes down to how the engine is designed, how it's used in the real world, and how much stress and heat it has to deal with over time. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people think engines die because of bad maintenance. In reality, many engines die even when maintenance is done properly. Once you understand that, everything about engine longevity starts to make sense. To explain why, we need to look inside the engine, not at badges or marketing, but at what the engine was actually built to handle. In this video, we'll break down the 6 factors that determine whether an engine reaches 200,000 miles or never gets close. Let's start with engine stress versus engine capacity. Engines don't last long because they're lucky. They last long because they're designed to tolerate stress. Every engine is designed to handle a certain amount of stress, not just once, but every single day for years. Stress is simply how hard the engine has to work to do its job. Imagine 2 engines producing the same power. One is large and relaxed, the other is smaller and working much harder. Both move the car, but they're working under very different loads. One is working far closer to its limits than the other. When an engine produces a lot of power relative to its size, internal pressures go up, temperatures go up, and mechanical load increases. That doesn't mean it's poorly engineered, it means it has less margin for error. By margin for error, I mean how forgiving an engine is when real life isn't perfect. Missed services, short trips, hot days, cold starts. Some engines shrug that off, others don't. Here's why constant stress matters. Engines don't fail all at once. They fail first in the most heavily loaded areas. Bearings lose their oil film. Piston rings see higher friction. Clearances that were safe on paper start shrinking in real life. At that point, the engine isn't broken, it's just less tolerant. And once tolerance is gone, heat becomes the deciding factor. Engines that last a very long time are usually not the strongest ones. They're the ones that are not constantly operating near their limits. And this is important. Design tolerance is decided before the car is ever sold. Things like how much pressure the engine runs, how fast the pistons move, and how much heat the engine has to deal with are all set by the basic design. Bore and stroke, compression, cooling, and material choices quietly define how hard an engine can work and how forgiving it will be over time. No oil change, no driving habit can increase how much stress the engine was designed to tolerate. Once an engine is under stress, the next thing that decides how long it survives is heat. Every time an engine runs, it creates heat. That's normal. Engines are built to run hot. The problem isn't heat itself, it's how much heat, how often, and how long it stays trapped. Most drivers keep an eye on coolant temperature, and that's useful, but it doesn't tell the whole story. What really determines engine wear is oil temperature. Oil is what protects the engine's moving parts, and heat breaks oil down long before metal fails. Engines don't usually die from one overheating event. Engine fails from thousands of small heat cycles like cold start, warm up, shut down, and heat soak. Some engines are designed to shed heat easily. Others run hotter to meet efficiency goals. Neither approach is wrong, but hotter running engines have less thermal tolerance. Cast iron blocks, common in many older engines, tend to tolerate heat and abuse better over long periods. Once heat is under control, the next factor that decides engine life is how internal parts wear over time. This is something most people never see, but it matters more than almost anything else. Inside every engine, metal parts are constantly moving against each other. Pistons slide, bearings rotate, valves open and close thousands of times every minute. Even with perfect lubrication, wear is unavoidable. 2 engines can be built to the same quality standard and still age very differently. Why? Because what matters is not just how strong the parts are, but how quickly they're expected to wear. Engines designed for long life often use larger bearing surfaces, thicker piston rings, and lower internal stress. Engines designed for efficiency and performance often use lighter components, tighter tolerances, and thinner oil films. Both approaches work, but they age at different speeds. Engine life isn't just about how well parts are made, it's about how fast those parts are designed to wear. And remember, heat accelerates wear. Higher temperatures break down oil faster, reduce lubrication, and increase friction. That's why heat and wear are inseparable. So now we know three things: stress matters, heat matters, and internal wear rate matters. The next question is obvious. What happens when an engine becomes more complex? Engines today are far more complex than they used to be. That complexity brings better performance, better efficiency, and cleaner emissions. But complexity also changes how engines fail. In a simple engine, one problem usually stays one problem. In a complex engine, one small failure can trigger a chain reaction. Every additional component adds another possible failure point. Sensors, wiring, actuators, plastic parts, each one works perfectly on its own. But over time, the chance of something going wrong increases. Complexity also packs more parts into tighter spaces. That traps heat, accelerates aging, and stresses components that were never meant to run hot. Complexity doesn't make engines unreliable. It makes them less forgiving when something goes wrong. Some brands prioritize longevity, while modern designs sometimes favor performance over extreme durability. Naturally aspirated engines without turbos or superchargers often last longer due to fewer complex parts. So even with the same engine design, the way it's used in the real world can change everything. And that brings us to operating conditions. Even the best designed engine can wear out early under the wrong operating conditions. And this explains something many people notice. Two cars, same engine, same maintenance. One crosses 200,000 miles, the other doesn't. Most engine wear happens when the engine is cold. Oil is thicker, clearances aren't ideal, lubrication isn't fully established, frequent cold starts quietly add up. Short trips are especially hard on engines. The engine never fully warms up, moisture doesn't burn off, heat builds unevenly. Add stop-and-go traffic and the engine spends more time hot, but poorly cooled. Engines don't wear out because they're driven hard, they wear out because they're driven cold often. Letting the engine idle for 30 to 60 seconds on cold starts and driving gently until warm prevents premature wear on bearings and pistons. So now we understand the design, the heat, the wear, and the real-world conditions. That leaves one final variable: maintenance. At this point, it's tempting to say, so it's all about maintenance. But that's not entirely true. Maintenance doesn't change how an engine is designed. It doesn't increase bearing size. It doesn't reduce heat density. What maintenance does is slow down wear. Some engines are designed with a wide maintenance window. They survive late oil changes, occasional neglect, real-world human behavior. Other engines have a narrow window, miss a service, use the wrong oil, ignore a warning light, and wear accelerates quickly. Regular oil changes with quality synthetic oil are crucial to reduce friction and wear. Keeping coolant levels correct and changing it prevents overheating and corrosion. Using clean fuel and fuel system cleaners prevents clogged injectors, ensuring efficient combustion. Maintenance doesn't create longevity. It only decides how quickly longevity is lost. This is why you'll see a poorly maintained engine that still survives and a well-maintained engine that fails early. Design sets the limit. Maintenance decides how close you get to it. So now we can answer the original question. Why do some engines reach 200,000 miles while others don't? It's not one reason. Engines last a long time when stress stays within design limits. Heat is managed effectively, internal wear happens slowly, and real-world use doesn't constantly push the engine outside its comfort zone. Engines that reach high mileage aren't special. They simply spend most of their lives inside the limits they were designed for. Once you understand that, you stop asking which engine is best and start understanding why some engines last and others don't. If your goal is 200,000 plus miles with minimal drama, then yes, a larger, simpler engine is usually the safer bet. If your goal is mileage, efficiency, modern performance, small turbo engines can still last long. They just need stricter maintenance and good driving habits. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.